Welcome to the podcast, Melody and Friends, where I will be taking a virtual tour around the world and interviewing all kinds of wonderful people. And today we land in Illinois to talk to Dr. Jerome Wagner about our journey into relationships using the Enneagram personality system. Welcome, Dr. Wagner.
Thank you. Nice to be here. George Burns used to say at my age, it's nice to be anywhere. Yeah.
It's nice to be anywhere. Yes, absolutely. Well, before we take kind of a dive into the Enneagram and the personality and all the incredible work that you've been doing, why don't you share just a little bit of your story, maybe growing up and all the things, and then we can take a dive in how you bumped into the Enneagram and how that blew up your life.
All right. How it changed things.
Yes.
Well, I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio, gateway to the South, Queen City, Porkopolis. I can't think of any other names that Cincinnati is called.
Yes.
I went to for better or for worse, a Jesuit high school.
Okay.
And there got to like the Jesuits. So I said, well, I'd like to join this crowd. So I did. So for the first part of my life, first half, I was a member of the Jesuit religious community, which is actually where I learned the Enneagram. So I studied psychology. So I had a master's in psychology. Then I went to get a MDiv, Master of Divinity in Theology. And I was taught by a man by the name of Bob Oakes.
Okay.
Bob Oakes was a systematic theologian, which, no offense to systematic theologians, but it's probably the most boring theologian you can be.
Okay.
But Bob drifted and he got interested in the Enneagram. And he taught a 2-semester course on religious experience. It was just a great course. So we learned yoga and breathing and meditation. And he had just come back from California, from Esalen, where he had learned the Enneagram from Claudio Naranjo. He was in Claudio's very first class that he taught in the United States. Claudio had just come back from, this is like 6 degrees of separation. Claudio had just come back from South America, where he learned the Enneagram from Oscar Ichazo. Both of those, so it's kind of like the father and mother of the Enneagram. They both passed away actually last year. So we're orphans now, we're on our own. But it was a wonderful course. And throughout the whole 2 semesters, Bob taught us the Enneagram. And at first I thought, oh, well, this is like the horoscope, is another personality system. But it really described me very well. And I found, and I still find, it really provides a framework, a structure for hanging on the different pieces of the personality puzzle on. So then I went to get my PhD in clinical psychology at Loyola University here in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And amazingly, my dissertation committee let me do my dissertation on the Enneagram.
Wow.
Actually, I was just thinking this. There was a couple of dissertations before mine on the Enneagram, but no one had really described the styles. So mine was kind of the first written description of it. There was nothing written. I jokingly suggested to my dissertation committee, well, since this is all oral tradition at this point, how about if I put phone numbers back instead of a bibliography? And you can call up these people, talk to them. They failed to see the joke there. They let me do the dissertation anyway. So I compared it to the Myers-Briggs and another system by Milan. He's got 8 types. I came up with an Enneagram inventory, and now I have one online that's about the 10th version of it. It's pretty good. And I'm actually working with somebody who helped with the statistics for the latest Myers-Briggs test. So I think we can get it even better. I'm a clinical psychologist, so I still see clients. I'm doing it all with Zoom and online, thanks to Mother Nature and the pandemic. And I do some Enneagram trainings, again, online. But I'm retired from teaching. I taught in the psych department at Loyola and the Institute of Pastoral Studies. So I retired just in time, right before the pandemic. Oh, I got out just in time.
Wow.
So I still find the Enneagram fascinating. I mean, you would think, aren't you sick of it by now? But I meet new people and learn new things, and I still find it really fascinating. And I use it in therapy if people want to use it, if they know it. So I don't force it on people. I think it's great for couple counseling, family therapy, business, but team building, leadership. So it's just, it's got a wide variety of uses.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. Yeah, I'd love for the person out there that may know Myers-Briggs and may
Mhm.
not know the Enneagram, talk a little bit about the difference of that. I mean, they're very different. And I love Myers-Briggs and DISC and a lot of the things out there, but
Yeah.
Enneagram has really opened up another lens with which to see the world. So talk a little bit about how
Yeah.
you differentiate the two.
Okay. Well, the Myers-Briggs has got 16 types, 16 combinations based on Jung's theory, and the Enneagram has 9. And the big 5, what a surprise, they have 5 factors that they've discovered. Some people have 6. So I don't know. People say, well, why 9? And I say, it's a convention of the system. Here's the personality pie. You can cut it into 16 pieces, 9 pieces, 5 pieces, 4 pieces. The Enneagram favors 9.
Hmm.
So 9 different ways of being in the world. If you want to be theological, you could say, well, these are 9 manifestations of divinity. Or you could say these are 9 manifestations of human nature, if you want to take a psychological perspective. So either one kind of works. With the Myers-Briggs, you can't come out looking bad. It's all positive for the most part. If the Enneagram has good news and bad news.
And I love
So there are some gifts and talents. There's a high side to each style. And I think if you exaggerate it, if you overdo it, you get the downside. So too much of a good thing becomes a bad thing. So we get kind of stuck in our ways. When I first learned the Enneagram, we just learned the negative parts of it mostly. And then I was thinking, well, is there anything good about these styles at all? And I like the Greek notion of hamartia, so missing the mark. And it implies there was something there that hit the target, but it got distorted. It got bent out of shape. So now you missed the target. So it's like, well, what was good about each type that when you overdid it, it missed the target, hamartia. It's like my golf swing, which I gave up blessedly years ago. I would either go to the left or to the right, hamartia. I was always on someone else's fairway, not my own. So, we were taught in the Jesuits to pray for humility and humiliations. I got enough of that playing golf. So I said, okay, now I'm a saint. That's right. Okay, so the good thing is each of us has all these qualities in us. We got all 9 capacities. We favor one. I used a metaphor in the 9 lenses book that I have, or Enneagram spectrum. If you shine light into a prism, it breaks up into a spectrum of colors. If you shine humanity into a prism, it breaks up into a spectrum of personality styles.
Right.
So in one hue, one particular color kind of has a little bit more intensity. We've got them all in us, but some people show off blue, some people show off green, some people show off yellow. So the other thing is, what do you value? What gets you up in the morning? What energizes you? Or at the end of the day, if you look back and you say, well, what made this a good day? So I think some types, the type 1, want to be good. They want to leave the world better than when they got here, and they are good people. They value doing things well and want to help other people realize all their potentials, want to help other people be good. So, and part of what they're good at is finding things that need to be fixed. So why are you here? Well, God sent me here to make things better. And, that includes me, that includes you, that includes anybody I can get my hands on, So my job is to fix things as a 1. So they're really good at noticing what can be improved. They're good improvement experts.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. Their next door neighbor, the 2s, they value love, I think. So God is love. God is good. God is love. And relationships are important to them. They are very generous with their time, with themselves. They want to help people. They feel good about helping people. And so if you're a helper, then you got to look and see what the people need. So they're very empathic. They're very good at sensing what people are feeling, what they need. 3s are like closers. They're like finishers. They like to get things done. They like to accomplish things. They're very effective. There's a Self-efficacy is a psychological theory, little engine that could. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. Competence is a value. Erickson talks about industry versus inferiority, being able to work with others to get things done. So you say, well, God is effective. I'm sorry, but I've never quite heard that. Where is that? Well, a God created the world in 6 days. That's very efficient. Yeah. Now, threes would say, yeah, we could have probably read that project in under 4 days, but 6 is good. Okay. Fours, the next door neighbor to the threes, value authenticity, whereas the Enneagram says, we have some things in common with some people. The fours would say we are unique. There are things about us that are not like anybody else. And so value that. So we're each one of us is priceless. And they also value beauty. They have a good taste. They have class. I'm laughing. There's a cartoon poster of a penguin. And so the penguin is dressed in a formal suit, but he's got bare feet. And so the caption says, I used to feel bad because I had no shoes until I met someone who had no class. So four's got class. If you want a nice wardrobe, you want your house look like a museum, hire a four. They got good taste. So, and a very feeling. I taught this to undergraduates, and I asked one class, what do fours do for the world? And the couple of people said, we feel for the world. Isn't that nice? Mm-hmm. For threes, we do for the world. We love the world. For twos, we make the world better for the ones. So the next door neighbor to the fours are the fives. So the thinkers. So I'm a five. We, not surprisingly, are interested in systems, like the Enneagram. And if you'd ask the five, well, what do you do? Well, I think for the world. Fours feel, I think for the world. They got the feelings covered. Or at the end of the day, if you ask me what made it a good day, I'd say, well, I learned something today. I see. So fives we value knowing, God is all wise. Wisdom, which comes from experience, not just reading books about things, but what's your experience? And the ability to see the big picture. Fives like to do that. So very synthetic, that kind of thing. See how things fit together. So I wrote some articles on the Enneagram and Karen Horney, the Enneagram and Alfred Adler, the Enneagram and Harry Stack Sullivan. So kind of seeing how these systems fit together. So you just make it up, see how they fit. So fives are looking for connections. How does this go? How does the Enneagram and the Myers-Briggs go together? So we're good at that. Our next door neighbor, the sixes, are here not to make the world more enlightened, although they can do that, but they're here to make the world safe and secure. And God knows these days we really need some sixes around. Holy cow.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, really. They value being faithful and loyal and committed, doing what they said they do. And they're very loyal folks. There's a fearful part of them, and they kind of imagine how things can go wrong. The good news is they're prepared for things. So they're good troubleshooters. Now, their next door neighbor, the seven, is looking for a lot of experiences, looking for adventure, looking for taste and see the goodness of the Lord. Let's try everything out in the garden. Try some apples, try some oranges. Let's see what this is like. So you want to have as many experiences as you can. And joy is the value. If you're not enjoying what you're doing, why are you doing it? Right? So sevens are very optimistic. Sixes tend to look at what can go wrong. I think sevens tend to look at, well, what's going to go right here? We got some lemons. Let's make some lemonade. Pull the good out of it. The eights, next door neighbors, would be here for they want to make the world a more just place. So strength is important to them, power, using their power to influence others. God is all powerful. Eights are good at protecting the underdog, taking care of them. So their radar is out for what's fair, what's not fair. I remember an 8 client once saying, I'm here to tell the truth. So 8s are the truth tellers. We may not want to hear it, but they're going to tell it. The rest of us might fudge a little bit. 8s are pretty direct, kind of no nonsense. Tell it like it is. All right. And then the nines up at the last type, more first type, depending on where you want to start. Nines are here because they value harmony. They value peace. Again, we need a lot of nines around these days. They're good for unity. How underneath all this diversity, we're really one. We're more alike than different. Yeah, we got these 9 types, but really we're human beings underneath all of that. And we really have that in common. So we're all one. And nines tend to be peaceful. They're great mediators. They're good at listening to all sides of an issue and helping people hear one another. They're big on inclusivity. They like people to be included. I don't know. Like the Romans had the Pantheon, we got a niche for all the gods. We don't think there's room for everybody. Or the Unitarian Church. Come on in. So that's the 9. If you exaggerate that stuff, that's the bad news. That's the downside. Mm-hmm. So we got the ones who want to make the world a better place, who want to be good, who want to be like the old Army slogan, be all that you can be, realize all their potentials. If you push that too far, so that's something I want to do. I really want to do things excellently. I have this passion for excellence. Good news. Bad news is now you start to think, okay, I have to be perfect in order to be liked. Mm-hmm. So something that you want becomes a should. Oh God, now I have to do this because otherwise you won't like me or you'll throw me out of the club. So the one can become a perfectionist and the least flaw can ruin the whole thing. So the 2s, so you say, well, what's wrong with loving? How can you screw that up? Well, you do too much of it. So you make people dependent on you. So now you get into codependency. You don't realize this, but you really need me to help you out. Yes, you're right. I didn't realize that. Well, thank God I'm here because now I'm going to help you across the street, whether you want to go across the street or not, because I know that's best for you. So the 2s can overdo the helping. And it's like, well, in order for me to be loved, I have to be liked. And you're going to like me if I do things for you, if I help you. So again, it becomes a should. I should do it. The 3s who like action, like to do things, like to accomplish things, their worth starts to depend on what I do, not what I am. So now you got the workaholic, work, do, pushing it too far. The 4s who value authenticity, be who you are, start to think, well, if I'm ordinary, then I'm nobody. If I'm just like everybody else, you won't like me. You won't appreciate me or value me. So they take being ordinary, being unique, and push it into being special. I have to be special in your life, like no one else. And to be ordinary is, hell, just shoot me. Right? There's no value in that. 5s, if you push knowing too far, you get the egghead. You get the over rationalizer, intellectualizer. There is a body underneath your head. It's not there just to move your head from room to room. What are you feeling? What do you want to do? Oh, I just want to sit and think. Oh, okay. So 5s overdo thinking. 6s, here's an interesting thing. 6s can become overly fearful. So, these days, who's not overly fearful? You walk out, you catch COVID. Mm-hmm. So they're loyal. They are faithful. Hesed, God is faithful to God's people. Push that too far. And now you got somebody who's loyal to their cause, to their religion, to their belief, but God help you if you are in some other camp. So now you got the fanatic. If you push a true believer too far, then you've got somebody who's setting up sides, who's for me, who's against me, who's the foe, who's the on my side. So 6s if you push it too far, that can happen. 7s, you say, well, how can you push joy too far? Well, now you've got the attitude that everything's coming up roses. And, you put on your pink sunglasses and everything looks rosy. And you can become overly Pollyannish, naivete, and the pleasure becomes overly emphasized. So we're going to avoid pain, pursue pleasure. Freud would agree with that, what it's all about. And so sevens become a little hesitant about entering into the world of pain and suffering. What good can come from that? Fours, on the other hand, value, appreciate pain and suffering, builds character. That's where life is lived. It's something that we all have to experience. The eights, who are all powerful, pushing strength too far, and you get the bully, or you go from being assertive to being aggressive. And how do you survive? It's the old line. I have to moderate this. I don't know who your audience is. It's the old line, yea, though I walk through the valley of darkness, I shall fear no evil. For I am the meanest SOB in the valley. So if they're afraid of you, they ain't gonna mess with you. So, you pound your chest a little bit. And okay, the 9, you've pushed peace too far, harmony too far. Now you've got the over accommodating person, peace at any cost, go along to get along. And so in order to accommodate yourself to everybody else, you kind of lose touch with what you want, what your agenda is. So it's amazing, human beings, we can screw up anything, including ourselves. So, and there's 9 different ways of doing that. So, and then the Enneagram has some suggestions. Well, here's some ways that you can recognize when you're getting off track, and here's some things that you might do to get back in touch with who you really are. So those are those, the Enneagram is a circular figure, circumplex model, we say in high-tech terms. And then there are these connections among the types. So you got things in common with the types on either side of you. And then also where you go when you're stressed out and where you go when you're feeling kind of balanced. So that's a fascinating part of the system.
Yeah, I would just let's talk a little bit about that, because that's one of to me, the big differentiations between Myers-Briggs and a lot of the other tests out there is that a lot of them tell you kind of like what you do, how you think, how you feel.
Yeah.
But I loved how the Enneagram really gets to the why, that internal motivation, kind of like looks under the hood of the car just to better understand why you do those things. And that's what I love about that.
That's right. And so when I talk about the values and, at the end of the day, what made it a good day, or what's your purpose? What are you here for? What would you like on your tombstone, or all kind of ways of getting at that why.
And then the strength and stress that you talked about, knowing where you go, it really gives you a path and multiple paths. And I love that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, and the thing is, it's important to figure out, well, what is the organizing style in your life? What's your preferred way of being there? Then the other styles become kind of aids, auxiliaries. But we also have all 9 types in us. So it's good to kind of develop all 9 skills. It's like we get 9 players on our outer team and inner team, and we tend to prefer, maybe 3 or 4 players, 5, but we got all 9. And some of them might be really helpful in certain situations. Yeah. Or another, I run out of metaphors after a while, but if you think about your main style as the chief executive officer or the chief operating officer, and then you've got your board of directors. So now you've got 8 people on the board of directors, and it's good to talk with them once in a while. Keep your company in business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, just again, knowing like some of the other personality assessments, it's like, this is what you are. And it kind of, the Enneagram allows you to really lean in with curiosity to explore. It's almost like an exploration of who am I, where I go when I'm in strength, where I go when I'm in stress. And I feel like it also has a built-in empathy. It really allows for empathy. I can learn more about you, how you work. I can learn more about me and how I work. And I love the empathy piece that comes with the Enneagram.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Really other types are not threatening. They're actually helpful.
Yeah.
Good to know them.
Yeah.
Another thing that I talk about the sweet spot, which is the gift of each type, but then
Yeah.
also there's a hot spot, which would be what's the touchy aspect of each type, and then the blind spot.
Mm-hmm.
So, each of the types, I think, sees certain things really clearly,
Mm-hmm.
but then you're going to miss some things. Well, it's interesting. There's literally a blind spot in your eye where all the optic nerves come together. I can never get this to work, but if you stare at a spot across the wall, eventually you will actually see there's a black spot. There is no sensation coming in. And why don't we recognize that? How come we don't see it? Because our eyes are always moving.
Mm.
So if you kind of keep moving around that Enneagram circle, and let's see how one would look at it, how would 7 look at it, how would a 4 look at it, it kind of eliminates your blind spot because you see 360 degrees. So each type, like I'm a 5, so I'm good at looking at ideas, and I might overlook feelings. 4s, my neighbor, feelings are the first thing they look at. Oh, that's right, I forgot about that. 7s might look at, here's all the great things that are going to happen. Let's do this. Let's do that. May not see what could go wrong. Luckily, they have a 6 neighbor who could say, well, have you thought about this? What about this?
Yeah, I work with a 6.
What's that?
I work with a 6, and we complement each other very well.
That's right. And then the hot spot is what's touchy. What don't you want people to see? What don't you want to hear people say about you? And oftentimes you can kind of go back and see, well, where did that start? How did that happen? And then that also leads to empathy. You say, oh, okay, you're not just a pain in the butt, but now I see why you developed that defensive strategy. That makes sense. I remember a lady who was a 6. When she was about 6, I've used this example. Her father came home and said, let's go to the ice cream store. And she said, great, okay, oh, good. So they get in the car, drive downtown. They go past the ice cream store to the dentist office. Oh. So now now 6s who value loyalty she's now betrayed by the old man. Betrayal is the worst for 6s, or not doing what you said you were going to do.
Yeah.
So you wonder why 6s become suspicious, a little paranoid, want to see the hidden intention. What do you mean, ice cream store? Or, the next time the old man says, let's go to the ice cream store, you might say, no, thanks, or I'll drive. Or again, what do you mean, ice cream store? So a lot of times you can see, not always, but, kind of, I was hurt back there when I was little. And I determined that's not going to happen to me again. So that's the defensive side of the Enneagram style, is to protect ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Really, really good. Let's talk a little bit about your books. You did your dissertation on the Enneagram. How did you evolve into all the books and the trainings and?
Yeah. Okay. Glad you asked. The first book was the Enneagram Spectrum, and I wrote that to be kind of an introduction to the Enneagram.
Right.
So I have one column talks about what's the value, what's the gift, and right across from it, how does it get distorted? Talks a little bit about where you go for stress and balance. It just got reissued as a 25th anniversary edition. And so I have a longer introduction, and I put more stuff about subtypes. We could talk about them sometime.
Okay.
That gets confusing, but you think isn't 9 types enough? Well, there's 3 varieties of all the 9 types. Now we got 27. Oh my God. So nothing in life is simple. So that's the spectrum. And I use the metaphor of, shining light into a prism, and you get these breaks into 9 different colors.
Yeah.
9 lenses is a different metaphor. So the 9 lenses is like the graduate school version of the Enneagram spectrum. So that's the metaphor of lenses. So we look at the world through lenses, through our paradigms, through our schemas. But I've been having my glasses on this whole time, haven't paid any attention to them. Now I got them off, and I realized, oh, hell, I've been looking at you through my lenses. But I seldom take them off unless I go to eye doctor who takes them off and says, let's look at these lenses. Oh man, how old are these lenses? I think I can change this so you can actually see a little bit better. And so the Enneagram helps us take a look at these 9 lenses, some of which help us see clearly, others distort things. And the other thing, you put the glasses on and you forget you're wearing them. Doesn't everybody see things this way? So I had, from example from my own miserable life, a cataract surgery years ago, and was absolutely amazed that the world was not yellow. Once they took those cataracts off, wow, things are really bright.
Wow.
It's amazing. But how do you know?
Right.
Because that's the lens you're looking at the world through. So, the Enneagram is really helpful for, helping us take a look at the filters we use.
Yeah.
So the world comes through them. Yeah. Then I do a training program. I got a part 1 coming up in November. I'm doing it all online now.
Okay.
And then a part 2 coming up in January. So it's just part 1 kind of uses my Enneagram Spectrum book. Part 2 uses the 9 lenses, goes deeper. You don't have to do both, but after you do part 1, you would just kick yourself for not doing part 2. Let's face it.
Yep. That's really good. What would you say would be a major aha that you've learned out of the Enneagram for your own self, for your own personality? How has it helped you?
That's a good question. I mean, this is this is recent. It's so 5s, we hate to be imposed upon, invaded, intruded upon, all that kind of stuff. Leave us alone. And I had the insight that, what you're interpreting as an intrusion is actually an invitation. They're not saying, you want to go to dinner. Oh God, no, I don't want to. That's another expectation. It's an invitation to a relationship. Oh. Or as someone else said, for a 5, instead of withdrawing, redraw your boundaries, make them bigger.
That's good.
Yeah, there's a book by Ken Wilber called No Boundaries. And when you get to the no boundary, now you're in the mystical, we're all one, really. And his thing, the task of life is to wake up from the illusion of separateness. Yeah, so you spend the whole first of your life creating an ego and setting up boundaries, and then the next second half, you got to let them go. Yeah.
That's good. I love how you said invitation.
Yeah.
Instead of, feeling intruded upon. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's so many ahas to understanding the ego and the personality, how it works, but then also where we're going. And, hopefully we're on a journey to the high side, to the better, best version of ourselves. And I love that piece too. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Or kind of, what can you, I think we all probably do it. What can you contribute to the world and the community, as opposed to how can you protect yourself from it, or what can you get out of it, but what can you give to it?
Well, anything else that you would add just about, I love these tools that just help us better understand ourselves and the world around us, but anything else you would add?
Well, I mean, Enneagram folks probably won't like this, but I say it's a useful fiction. All theories are made up. And so some theories are more useful than others. I just find the Enneagram really useful.
Yeah.
It's a very helpful tool. If you don't like it, pick another one.
Right.
There's a lot of other ones out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not, well, I mean, it can be threatening. People come to therapy saying, I want to know myself, but, let's go slow. I don't want to know too much about myself.
That's right. At some point, you'll be having your toes stepped on a little bit, but I love it because I can have a couple in crisis come in and they're, sitting on either ends of the couch.
Yeah.
And when you leave, and again, not that you fixed everything, but, I always say I reframe for a living. So you're able to, you're able to provide perspective.
Yeah.
And that perspective is, wait, this person's not trying to piss me off. This is actually some of their internal wiring.
Yeah.
And so that better helps me understand them, and I can move toward them instead of feeling like, this person is my enemy. So
Yeah, that's right.
I like that.
That's right.
Really good.
And what can I learn from them? The other thing is I use the paradigm, which usually people say, what? So a paradigm is a way of looking at the world. It's our schemas. And Einstein said you can't solve a problem using this paradigm that created the problem in the first place. So you can learn from another person. Well, how do you see things? How are you in the world? And then you can enlarge your own perspective, your own way of being in the world. So again, we can kind of learn from each other. It's like put on the mind of Christ, put on the mind of a 2, put on the mind of a 3 and a 7 and an 8. So you might say, well, God, I can't do that. I could never do that. Well, what you mean is you won't do it. And so then you got to figure out, well, why won't you do it? And what you might find really hard to do, somebody else might find it easy to do.
Right. It's really beautiful. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. So we really do supplement each other.
Yeah. Not only that, and it makes everybody necessary.
Yes, it does. Yeah. I'm just reading a book about the self, how the self develops and is created. This is from a social psychologist, but he keeps talking about somewhere along the line, evolutionary wise, human beings learn that we survive better in a group with each other. And so the brain has evolved to help us figure out how to be in a group, how to cooperate, how to get people to cooperate with us, and what's our role in the group. So each of us have kind of a place in the group, some more specialized than others, but then that helps us be valued, become a part of the group, help the group out. So that's another way of thinking about it. Each of the 9 types has evolved in a way that helps the group as well as the self. It's great.
That's interesting that you said that. That's a core value of mine. Everybody's got a seat at the table. You almost think about, the table where the knights all had a place to sit at the Quest for Camelot. But yeah.
That's right. Queen Guinevere's table. That's right. Where
everyone had a seat.
She graciously let the knights sit down.
Yes, exactly. That's good.
There was a round table too, just like the Enneagram.
Yeah, the round table, just like the Enneagram. That's awesome. Well, why don't you tell our listeners how to get in touch with you?
Okay.
I'll put all the links to your website and all the things in there, but tell our listeners how to get in touch with you.
Okay. I have a website, www, and then it's Enneagram Spectrum, all one word, enneagramspectrum.com. There's another website, training.enneagramspectrum.com. So that is specifically describes the training.
Okay.
You can sign up for them from either website. I got a bunch of articles on the Enneagram Spectrum website. I'm just going to put one up. I've just wrote one on the virtues in relationships. Like virtues help relationships, vices get in the way of relationships. And then I have a test, Wagner Enneagram Personality Style Scales. So it's WEPSS.com. And that's my Enneagram inventory. You can take it online. And it's pretty good. It's pretty well validated. It's the only one that was published by a psychological test company. So they thought, oh, well, this is reliable, valid, standardized enough. We'll publish it.
That's awesome. Well, I will put all the links in the show notes, and we will make sure that we point people to where you are and what trainings that they might be interested in, and counseling and all the things.
Yeah. Well, and thank you again for inviting me. It's always I'm always glad to talk about the Enneagram.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. I so much appreciate it.
You bet.
This episode has been brought to you by Life Beyond Betrayal. Life Beyond Betrayal is a comprehensive program that provides a community as well as 3 courses for women. The first course is Surviving Trauma Beyond Betrayal. Our second course is called Grieving Beyond Betrayal. And the third course is called Reclaiming You Beyond Betrayal. This is a self-paced program that you can take as long as you want to go through, and also provides a community so you feel like you have the the support that you need. So check out Life Beyond Betrayal membership at lifebeyondbetrayal.com.